like if your aim is to lose weight, you don't even have to work out. If you manage your diet, the weight will come off. But we want good nutrition. Healthy food fights disease. Poor processed, less than healthy food feeds disease. And so it's important to get all the nutrients, minerals, and vitamins that our body needs to function.
Eating healthy and eating conveniently don't always go together. Welcome to The Search Bar. I'm your host, Adam Sparks, and on today's episode, we're talking about ways to eat healthy without breaking the bank with Jeff Fisher, director of the Allen Foundation Culinary Nutrition Center at Central Michigan University. All right, hi Jeff, thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to talk with you.
Hello, Adam, great to be here.
We're going to talk a little bit about healthy eating and why does it seem like it's more expensive or more difficult to have like a well-rounded, nutritious diet versus a convenient diet, which is probably a little bit more full of preservatives and sugar.
Yeah, Adam, well, overall it is more expensive and it's not convenient to eat healthy food. And that's one of the challenges people face as their lives are getting busier. They don't make time to prepare healthy foods. Geographical wise, we have food deserts throughout the country where a consumer might have to drive 30 minutes to an hour to find healthy food. I've heard stories of inner city kids have never seen fresh tomatoes in their entire lives. So, it takes effort and it does take money.
Yeah, I mean, even right here in Michigan, I know for a long time, access to fresh produce in the city of Detroit was a big conversation. Even as recently as, I'm going to give an approximate date, but I think it was like 8 or 9 years ago that Whole Foods went in Midtown. And it was a big deal because there wasn't really a full-size grocery store, a full-size center for produce that was there year round, outside of Eastern Market being nearby there. And I remember reading about that and being kind of shocked. Like there's a bunch of folks, particularly if you don't have access to a personal automobile, that aren't really getting to a grocery store every week.
Yeah, and it was a big deal. I remember that well. And I think Meijer has now followed suit. And we have a couple big chain grocery stores in the city of Detroit. And it makes a big impact.
Yeah, and when you talk about food deserts, explain that a little bit for people. Like, what is a food desert?
Well, it's a geographical section usually found in big cities where there aren't any grocery stores available. And so people rely on more convenience stores or fast food for their nutrition. And so they just don't have access to all the fresh fruits and vegetables.
In general, why is it cheaper to go through the drive-through than it is to go to the grocery store? Like, what's the different things that are at play there?
So overall, I think processed food is not very perishable when compared to healthy food. Look, we were talking about the breads earlier, how artisan bread will spoil in 3 days' time versus some of the convenience breads we grew up with have preservatives that'll last weeks on the shelf. And so that's a big driver to keeping the cost down. They can make the product, they could store it, transport it without any loss to spoilage.
Mm-hmm. So it kind of makes the food more on demand, right?
Absolutely.
And that's most of the food you're consuming at I don't want to call anyone out by name, but very famous drive-through places you might go to, right? Like they're going to have food that's largely non-perishable in there, right? Like you're not getting a lot of fresh meat and produce in those places.
Absolutely. You're referring to any Mexican-oriented restaurants or burritos, very simple ingredients, not a lot of perishability.
Yeah, I would imagine that outside of shredded lettuce and tomatoes, those places aren't tossing a lot of stuff out at the end of the day. It's probably frozen.
Yeah, it all comes in prepackaged from a production kitchen, and all they do is heat and serve.
A lot more expensive at a sit-down restaurant, and I imagine some of that is because the ingredients they're using have more perishability. Like there's less stuff in the freezer, less stuff that's just shrink wrapped all day.
Yeah, so overall, like you say, we have the impact of inflation driving all the food costs up. But yeah, a sit-down restaurant, they're going to be cooking more from scratch. They require a more highly skilled labor force to produce the foods. And so that all factors into the price. The chairs you sit on, the ambiance, the server, all of that's going to have a big impact on the overall cost.
Even when you're succumbing to the convenience, it makes it feel less convenient when you're paying that kind of money. So I thought it would be nice to talk about how to have those better meals at home and how to do them in a way that is budget friendly. What do I need to do to meal plan to make it cheaper?
Well, start out, with a menu for the week. Plan out your meals ahead of time. So when you go to the grocery store, you have a plan, you have a list. Don't deviate from it. So you end up buying more stuff than you need or you could possibly eat. And then at the end of the week, you're going to end up throwing it away because due to spoilage, especially in the summertime when the markets are brimming with fresh fruits and vegetables from the farms. The prices are down. Everything looks great. You have a tendency to overbuy if you don't have a list and stick to it. It's okay to grab those splurge items if they're going to be for the pantry or something you can throw in the freezer, but having a list and planning out your meals ahead of time will kind of keep you within your budget.
I feel like as a parent, there's nothing more disappointing than throwing away fruit in the summer because the kids will be like, I want get a cantaloupe, get a what? My daughter always wants a whole watermelon. And I'm like, you and I are the only people in the house that eat watermelon. So as soon as I cut into that, some pressure on you and I. You know how it is when you get the watermelon all cut up and you're like, how many gallon bags do I have to put in my fridge to like maintain this thing?
Right.
Yeah, so I definitely feel that one. Can you dig a little bit deeper into like recipe examples? Like give me an idea of like how you would do it. Like if you were going to like kind of like start to create a couple square meals that'd be easy for people to do at the grocery store, what would that look like to you?
These days I've been doing a lot of meal prepping for the week. On Sunday, I'll sit down and I'll cook a bunch of food that I'll be able to eat for 4 or 5 days. I don't mind eating the same meals repetitively. Some people struggle with that.
Same. Don't care.
So, Power Bowls have been my latest interest, and they're easy. They call them Power Bowls because they're full of lean protein, whole grains, and vegetables. They're flexible. You can throw whatever you have into the bowl, mix it together, a little seasoning, and it tastes pretty good. So lately, and to make my Sundays a little bit easier, is I do a lot of everything on sheet pans, and I'll roast large sheet trays of vegetables. I've roasted chickpeas, cauliflower, broccoli. I'll cook up a little side of quinoa, and then I'll get some Tupperware containers and I'll assemble the meals either a couple days in advance or every morning. I'll just throw everything together, and it's pretty easy. It only takes a few minutes to get it out the door.
So if you make the Power Bowls for yourself right now, what's another meal that might come from some of those common ingredients, right? Because I know what you're trying to do is buy that stuff and not throw stuff away. So if I got like my quinoa Power Bowl here, what is an alternate meal that might come out of similar ingredients?
So I'm going to kind of go off, not necessarily a Power Bowl because they're kind of a catch-all.
Sure.
But say you throw some chicken on the grill for dinner the night before. You cook off a little extra chicken. The next day you could cut it up and make a quesadilla out of it. So always kind of trying to get 2 meals out of one, if you will. When you're thinking whatever you're going to cook for dinner, think how could I use this the next day? In restaurants we'll use like the prime when you have prime rib, a roast. The next day they'll shave it thin, put it in a hoagie bun, and serve it as a French dip sandwich. It's all about economy and making sure we utilize all the food we cook, and then also reduce our time in the kitchen.
My grandmother would famously just put a crust over something the next day. It was a very British thing to do. Like if you had any kind of meat and vegetable, throw it into a pie pan, put a crust over the top of it, shepherd's pie. Like that's
Sure.
It doesn't matter what meat and vegetable it was.
And then if nobody eats it, the leftovers go to the hogs, and they're going to end up back on the plate at one point or another.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there was kind of, I feel like when it comes to doing these things and thinking about being efficient with our food, it feels like generationally we've sort of lost that efficiency, that kind of like, I'm planning my meals out because I might not have access to this. Like you're talking a little bit about the supply chain for food and how we have these fresh fruits and stuff that are cheaper and on the shelves in the summer, but these non-perishable foods are available all the time because they're kind of ready to ship. And there's a big difference there, right? Like our culture and our economy is sort of demanding in a way that might cause food to cost more, correct? Like the fact that we can get bananas year round it's a new thing. It's not that hasn't existed for a very long time, right?
Sure, absolutely. And whenever we have to ship those bananas from Hawaii or some tropical region, there's a lot of fuel and transportation costs associated with that. And then when we experience these times of high prices and gas, or the volatility of those prices, it impacts everything, all of our food, transportation, and warehousing, storage, and you name it. And that's why oftentimes you hear people encourage them to eat local and eat in the seasons. I can always think about seasonal foods like the Girl Scout cookie effect, right? They come
Right.
around once a year, and boy, do they taste good. You look forward to them. And so we need to get used to eating seasonal. Right now in the markets, we have a lot of fresh asparagus coming in, fresh chives, spring lamb, and it's, getting used to looking forward to those items as we progress through the seasons. Strawberries will be next in June, and then the summer bounty will begin to be harvested. So,
For you, in a perfect world, does that sort of thing become more normalized? Do people start to eat more in cycles than eat on demand, right? In terms of that,
working in some fine dining restaurants, we were all about quality, and so we were very much in tune with the seasonal cycles, and we took advantage of those and celebrated them on the menus. Now we didn't have the constraints of a set menu. Our menus would change daily depending on what was available in the markets or what was fresh and good quality. We're actually blessed to live here in Michigan. We have a wide variety of agriculture that's grown in the state. We do a lot of beans, apples, cherries, all the fruit that grows on the western side of the state. Lake Michigan kind of gives them a nice insulating effect so it can grow. Gives an extended growing season. We're the I think second largest producer of apples behind Washington, largest producer of cherries. And so we have a lot of agriculture right in our backyard. Now during the winter, it's a different story. We rely on places like California or importing from other countries to get those fresh vegetables. But I think a lot of people don't know. I grew up, my mom would take us strawberry picking. We'd either go to Canada, we'd take advantage of the exchange rate, do all our strawberry picking, come home. You could throw a few in the blender to make some daiquiris while you're preserving the rest of the strawberries. Just being kind of growing up around it has given awareness and working in the food industry.
I'm actually going to press you to expand on that in terms of preparing for meals too. I feel like that's another one of those things where, you see some reclamation of this, right? Like in terms of, remember during the pandemic, everyone was making sourdough bread. It was kind of like the joke. Every millennial was learning how to be a bread baker. Or one of the things my sister did is she started preserving stuff. So making preserves. And I feel like that's another one where my mom did it. We would have these big like tomato harvests in her backyard. And it's like, well, we ate a lot of tomatoes. There's a lot of tomato sandwiches. Like it was the meat on a lot of sandwiches. But you can it or you make sauce, right? And I feel like that's something that like if you are getting food seasonally when it's more affordable, there are ways to preserve the food, which you might not be thinking about, even though you engage with those products on shelves all the time. I was wondering if you could give us a couple examples of things that preserve well that people might have access to.
One of the easiest ones, like a couple weeks ago at Meijer's, they had blackberries on sale, 99 cents for a little pint. I bought a dozen packages right in the plastic container, just throw them right in the freezer, and they're good to go. Other things, tomatoes are good. They can be canned. My sister, at the end of the season, she'll stop by the farmer's market when they have wholesale prices on tomatoes. She throws them right in the freezer in a Ziploc bag whole. And then when they thaw, you can peel the skins right off, and you have fresh tasting tomatoes. Now the texture is going to be impacted from the freezing, but those freeze really well. Vegetables freeze great, no loss of nutrients. And so I think part of the issue is, over the generations, we've kind of gotten away from those classic processes that were handed down from grandmother to mother to daughter. I know in my family, the girls don't cook, the guys do. So things are changing. And I think as both parents are working out in, working full-time jobs, there's just not a lot of time at home to produce and prepare the food and preserve it. Back in the old days, it was really putting it up for the winter, enough food to get you through the cold months till you could get the next harvest planted and begin to reap the benefits of that.
Right. That's like that whole like pickling and jamming thing, right? I feel like, again, I'll go back to my grandmother, who she'd always talk about, growing up in Europe pre-World War II. In the winter, you just ate pickled lettuce, because at that time, no one was importing that lettuce. It wasn't coming from California or Mexico or Chile or one of these places. Hawaii, where they grow, they have these big lettuce farms and they get shipped out in refrigerated trucks, and then get somewhere in 3 days, right? And in the 30s and 40s, that wasn't happening. So you pickled lettuce at the end of whenever lettuce season is. Again, I don't know. But I feel like, imagine going into a grocery store, imagine going to someone's house and they open up a massive jar of pickled lettuce in February to make you a salad. And that's what they would do, is they would eat like a salad of pickled lettuce, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we've lost that in a weird way. Some of the prices we're seeing at the grocery store and stuff right now are a little bit of a result of that impatience, or that need for convenience.
Yeah, everyone's busy. No one has time to cook. Yeah, I got to share with you, there's a great podcast out there called Depression Era Cooking. And someone's grandma is saying, this is how we did it when times were tough. And she actually, those little dandelion leaves that grow in your yard that we spray Roundup and all kinds of chemicals on, well, they're actually edible and very good for you. And so you needed a salad, you went and picked the leaves right out of your yard and made a salad out of it. They
just eat the dandelion greens.
Yeah, and then the flowers can be used for making dandelion wine. They wouldn't let anything go to waste.
Yeah, my grandfather used to unofficially he would still cranberries in his
Sure.
and it was a wild thing because he had these cranberry trees, and he was like, well, it makes pretty poor wine, but it makes really great whiskey. And I'm sure that was not above board, if you want to get technical about it. Every year my grandfather would show up to like family camping things and events, and he'd have these big gallon jugs of this whiskey that he would like give to his grandkids, who are like my parents and aunts and uncles and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it feels like that type of stuff is like just gone. Like for him, the utility of making sure that those cranberries became something was really important. He may have jarred them or something too, but of course, when you're a kid, you just remember Grandpa's apple cider, he would call it.
Well, it was done out of necessity too. Back then we were more of an agrarian society. And then when society changed and became more mechanized and manufacturing oriented, we did a good job at producing food. We had canning techniques, freezing, fermentation was another one I was going to mention. We did a good job of getting food on everyone's tables, but it wasn't always necessarily the food loaded with the most nutrients, And so I think through that manufacturing and that mechanization, we've kind of gotten away from, whole foods and in touch with where our foods come from.
I want to go back and just talk a little bit about some tips in the grocery store. Like if I'm not going to preserve things, or I'm not going to pickle things, or I'm not really going to do that in-season shopping, which I think everyone should try. And you probably have a farmer's market that you have access to. Most places will at least have that nearby. But if you're just going to the grocery store, what are some other ways to kind of, save a little bit of money and make that healthy eating more efficient?
Well, normally you may have heard it said when you shop the grocery store, you want to shop the perimeter. That's where a lot of the whole foods are found. Within the stores, getting a good deal, some stores will have racks of fruits and vegetables that are maybe ripe. Or maybe they have a bump or a bruise on them, and they'll sell those at discounted prices. You can find those at farmers markets as well. Take advantage of sale coupons or different subscriber deals you can sign up for with your local grocery store, and those will all offer a lot of discounts. And then it really comes down to just kind of watching your prices, getting to know them, understand the seasonal fluctuations. Usually when a product is in season, it's usually those first maybe 1 to 3 weeks where the grocery store will mark it down very low, and it's a great deal. When we had asparagus coming through, I think I consumed about 10 pounds in 2 weeks. But a great little trick there to make it last another week or two, just put it in a cup of water, the stems, and it'll stay fresh in your refrigerator. But there's a lot of things. Buying in bulk can be another great way to save money at the grocery store. But again, you have to know your prices, because just because you go to a big box store where you buy things by the pallet load doesn't always mean they're good prices. So you really got to understand those and take advantage of those sales when they come along.
So if you could give us a just a short list that you have of foods that have the most versatility to go by. Like, what are the ones that should be obvious or that we should have kind of earmarked for ourselves?
Overall, it's your lean proteins, your whole grains, fruits and vegetables. And then digging down a little bit deeper, I always keep, from a nutrition and dietetic standpoint, we kind of steer away from the red meats. Most animals that walk on two legs are going to have less saturated fat. It'll be a little healthier for you. Going back to your chicken example, you can buy thighs and legs cheaper than the breasts. Legumes, it's a plant source, a plant protein. It's a lot less expensive than animal-based proteins. And so if you want to go down towards, the vegetarian route, plant-based eating is the hot term today. You can get your protein from these plant sources. The protein items are what cost the most. Your fish, chicken, beef, pork. That's where most of the money on your plate are in those items. So one of the easiest ways to cut your grocery bill is to start focusing on these plant-based proteins. Of course, eggs are another great one, right? Especially, except for when prices are high. We saw them go through the roof there. Same with the whole chicken. It was amazing what they were charging, a couple years back for those.
It sounds like avian flu is going up again this year too. So,
yeah, maybe switch over to fish or pork or something.
Yeah,
but yeah, and then there's different cuts on the animal now. There's years ago that a lot of the cuts were very affordable. You could get a chuck roast or something like that, 59, 79 cents a pound. Today, it's $6, $7 a pound, and it's not so much a less desirable cut because any cut can be, tastes great as long as you apply the right cooking techniques to it, to tenderize it and make it juicy and delicious. So as far as the vegetables go, we have wonderful produce available in most areas of the country. But you can always go to frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables are great. They harvest them, they individually quick freeze them right in the fields on the trucks, and then the nutrients are preserved in those. And so those can be great economical ways. As are canned vegetables. They may not be as desirable in terms of texture or flavor, but they can be a great source of cutting the costs. But
rinse them.
Yeah, rinse them. Well, get some of the extra salt off them. So.
You taught me that a couple years ago, Jeff.
Did I?
You probably don't remember.
Maybe, I don't know.
No, it was definitely you.
Okay. We talked about vegetables, whole grains and legumes. You can get a big sack of rice for cheap. Brown rice. People aren't necessarily accustomed to it, but it's got a lot more nutrients in it. But the prices are relatively stable and affordable as well.
I was wondering if you could give us like one or two examples of something that's like kind of like a really good dinner or lunch that is completely plant-based, something that's easy for people to do.
Well, first, I'd like to just say, we want to get away from, I think Americans overall are obsessed with protein, and they consume way more than we actually need. We think that's all we need to build muscle or be healthy. And really, protein portion is about the size of a deck of cards. And so when we talk about plant-based eating, it's not eliminating meat, but it's not really the center of the plate item, and it's a smaller amount. We're using it to season and flavor our vegetables and grains with some good meat flavor. As far as easy recipes, in the wintertime, I do a lot of soups. I'll make a big pot of soup, a few gallons at a time. Put it in Tupperware containers, throw it in the freezer, and I got meals whenever I need them. Summertime, I kind of lean towards more salads, take advantage of all the fresh produce in the markets. Easy meals to throw together. I'll clean up my lettuce, maybe 3-6 heads at once, throw it in Ziploc bags so it's ready to go. All I got to do is throw some garnishes on there, and they're easy to make. And if you're really convenient, lately I've been eating a lot of frozen bean burritos. Got some great organic products out there that are affordable. You throw them in the microwave 2 minutes. It's very healthy and convenient too, But you don't want to go too far down the road of those lean cuisine or prepared meals, because you tend up getting a little high in the sodium aspects, and which isn't so good.
Some of us have to look out for that.
Yep.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Well, you all do.
What are the common misnomers that you hear about like diet and what makes a diet healthy and affordable, I guess? Because it seems to me sometimes that like I think people discount how much a diet might be affecting their health, right? Like I think there's this pervasive idea like I can work out enough to like overcome any bad diet or something like that, or just adversely, it's not even that you're working out to overcome it. You just don't think it's that big of a deal. Like maybe as long as my caloric intake is appropriate, it doesn't really matter what I'm eating. Like I feel like sometimes you hear things that kind of align with that, and that I'm guessing would not be something you would subscribe to.
Well, it's true. Like if your aim is to lose weight, you don't even have to work out. If you manage your diet, the weight will come off. But we want good nutrition. Healthy food fights disease. Poor, processed, less than healthy food feeds disease. And so it's important to get all the nutrients, minerals, and vitamins that our body needs to function. As far as the consumers go as a whole, I think we get a lot of mixed messages in media. 1 minute it's low carb, and then it's low sugar, low salt, low this, low that. When they went on the low fat craze, they started putting a bunch of sugar in the food to make it taste good because the fat was taken out. And so, not that we have to be extreme in any manner. It's okay to have a little sugar. 10% of our calories are discretionary. It's important to work with, qualified, like a registered dietitian, somebody who understands the science behind the recommendations. And so we're looking more of a balance in our diets and not getting too extreme. Carbohydrates aren't bad, but they've been vilified in the media. But there's a difference between highly processed carbohydrates and whole grain carbohydrates, the ones that are released very slowly into our bloodstream and doesn't cause our blood sugar to spike and then end up with that crashing lack of energy feel or increased cravings. We were talking earlier about pizzas, right? All those refined carbohydrates in there, it makes you more and more hungry, or you can take down the whole pizza. I know for me, if I can't do it in one sitting, I'll wait a little while till
try to do it another.
And keep at it till it's gone. And so those highly processed carbs are what's bad. Same with fat. Fat isn't bad. Now saturated fats they can clog up your arteries, lead to heart disease, but there's a lot of healthy fats available. Avocados have been really popular these days. They're delicious. Just yesterday I made the avocado toast with a fried egg sandwich, and it's a very healthy meal. But again, eating a lot of fat, but again, the unsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, which we usually get from vegetable sources, So really it's tough to sift through all those mixed messaging out there to really understand, what people should and shouldn't be doing. I think people are victim to a lot of fad diets, or they think it's the latest craze. For a while there, I kind of fell victim to, the protein thing. I was consuming a lot of protein. And after teaching the nutrition course, I learned that you can actually build up a lot of uric acid in your body as your liver and kidneys process that protein, and it can actually make a toxic environment in your body. So, I didn't know any better. And
even Jeff Fisher didn't know any better. Well, I think that's one of the things too, and I'm curious your opinion on this, and it seems like sometimes it's hard to know where to get nutrition advice, and it's really easy to take like any eating advice from anyone with a six-pack who's talking to you with their shirt off, right? Like where you kind of go, man, this person must be doing something right. So I'm going to listen to their dietary advice, and I feel like a lot of diet fads are born out of that. And the reality of it is that my hunch over the years, thinking about things that I eat, and I'm not a shirtless six-pack guy, is that it's more common sense, right? Like most of us probably know better if we really think about it. Like you were saying earlier, that shop on the outside of the grocery store, and if you do most of your shopping that way, it's going to be hard to eat a lot of stuff that's bad for you, I would surmise.
Yeah, and it's not to say that the inside of the grocery store is bad, but a lot of the whole foods, unprocessed foods, are found on the perimeter. And yeah, if somebody's fit, that doesn't mean they're healthy. They might look fit, they might look good on the beach, but they might have a lot of internal health problems going on due to their diet. And so, in fact, and when you kind of critically evaluate those messages, we do a little exercise in the nutrition course, is, who are these people? What is the organization? What are they trying to sell you? And that's usually a big red flag. If they're trying to sell you something they'll say anything to get you to buy their product.
Yeah.
And so you want to steer away from those sources of information. My program here at CMU, we train students to become registered dietitians, where they go through very rigorous study and examination to really understand the impact between nutrition and health. And I would say, work with one of them if you want good, solid advice.
Right. I mean, those folks are out there, and they're probably going to have a slightly different take than somebody who's selling a program on Instagram. And again, not to say that all that advice is bad. Like, certainly, like, wanting to have a healthier lifestyle is probably good, but there's probably not a magic cure for it. I had a doctor tell me once, if the box of something you're buying is telling you how healthy it is, you could probably get something not in a box and that'll actually do it better for you, right? Like, if it's got to tell you there's a bunch of stuff in there, his take was like, and I'm not saying I know what every one of those ingredients is, but if the box is like better for you, just go buy something that's not.
Yeah, the box should be the red flag in and of itself.
Yeah. I think that was a piece of advice I had gotten to when I was asking about my own diet, and it was like, try to not eat things out of boxes and cans as much as you can. Like, it's, obviously at some point you're going to crack open some Barilla, you're going to want some pasta. That's okay, but but that shouldn't be your primary source, of food.
Yeah, well, and pasta can be very healthy. It's got a lot of vitamins, nutrients, protein even in pasta. But it's at that point, it comes down to portion control.
Right.
You don't have a heaping plate of pasta. You have a small side of pasta, some lean protein, some vegetables on the dish, make it balanced. Yeah,
start getting those plates that you're eating to look more well-rounded, or have that bowl that you're eating have all of those different ingredients in it, right?
And there's tricks. They say if you use heavier flatware, when you pick it up, it's going to make it feel like, oh man, I got a big pile of food here. This is good, Or use a smaller plate, and so it looks like your plate is more full. So if you use an extra large plate, you're going to want to heap more food on there to make it look right, but not necessarily the proper portion size.
You don't want that disappointing experience when you go somewhere really expensive and they give you the huge plate, and then it's like beautiful, but it's like just. You ever have? I've
heard the story. It's $300 for a nice meal, and then you stop at McDonald's on the way home because you're hungry.
I've seen Jeff plate food, by the way, and he probably can do this really well, which is fill the plate in the middle and make it look really beautiful. But you're right. I think I've had that reaction and then eaten the meal and been like, actually, this was the perfect amount of food that I've had, and that's kind of that American psychology that we're getting away from too, right? Which is like, the value of the food. Obviously, like, when it comes to a lot of the stuff we're talking about, you do want to have enough food to feed yourself for a week. But if you're going to go out and you're going to splurge and you're going to break away from that, like, the value of the food isn't just the amount of the food. Is it good? Is it good for you? Did it taste good? Did I have a good experience? Because so much of our eating is experiential, right? I mean,
yeah, very much. Think when you go to Starbucks, right? They got the music, the nice furniture, the good ambiance. That's all part of the price you're paying for.
Yeah. Do you recommend people learn to eat through experience at home if they're having a hard time eating better things, or can you trick yourself even more than just those plates?
It's easier to control when you're at home, to eat better and healthier, and not rely. You don't know what's going on in the kitchen, I've had chefs tell us, put a little extra salt in the food. It's good for the liquor and wine sales.
People get thirsty.
So you never know, their motive,
Jeff's list of restaurants that do that will be out after this.
Fine dining, we don't shy away from butter and cream and all those saturated foods. So.
Everything's a roux.
Everything's a roux, flour
Awesome.
and butter.
A ruse.
A ruse.
And at that, Jeff, I'll say thanks for coming in and talking to me about eating healthy.
All right, well, it's a pleasure to be here, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for stopping by the search bar. Make sure that you like and subscribe so that you don't have to search for the next episode.